All righty, Delegate Spiegel, we are live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting of the Montgomery County Land Use, Transportation, and Public Safety Committee is called to order. Thank you all for being here. Just as a reminder, the meeting is being live streamed and recorded. And a reminder that this is not a public hearing on the bills we'll be discussing today. We already had those in December. This is a work session of the committee, although we certainly do invite the sponsors and other selected experts to weigh in our discussion and answer questions. With that, uh, we understand that Delegate Charkoudian has a tight schedule today, so that we are going to start with a discussion on our agenda of Bill MC 425, the Stop Sign Monitoring Systems Authorization Bill, which is sponsored by Delegate Charkoudian as well as Delegate Polakovich-Carr. Maybe Delegate Charkoudian, just a very, very brief summary of what the bill is and what it does. We don't need to get into too much detail since we've already had the public hearing.
Sure. As a reminder, this is modeled essentially off of what we passed as a General Assembly last year for Prince George's County. So it's a local bill. It's a pilot for 5 years. Allows the county government and local government to implement stop sign cameras in school zones, specifically for enforcement. There's a couple of points of what needs to be considered and public information, announcements and so on. As enforcement is going up, a requirement that the first violation is a warning, and restrictions on amounts of fines and an opportunity to appeal and those kinds of things. But it is essentially what I believe everybody on this committee has already voted for Prince George's County when their local bill went through the General Assembly, and now we would be enabling it for Montgomery County.
Colleagues on the committee, any questions for Delegate Charkoudian or issues that you want to raise about this particular bill? If I don't see any, I just wanted to raise a couple of things. First, at some point, I believe during the hearing on the bill, there was a question raised about the differences between this bill and the Prince George's County model. As I understand it, they're almost identical. But Delegate, do you want to talk a little bit about if there are any differences of note that we should just be aware of?
It just had to do with the way that, because Prince George's County is so much more of Prince George's County are under municipalities, and so it had to do with the structure of so the way that the Montgomery County bill is as local government. And so as I read it, that is municipalities and it's the county who can authorize the placement of them. If I somehow got that wrong and someone says, no, the way you've written it, it's only the county or it's only municipalities, if there's an analysis that says that, I'll fix it, because the intention is that it's both. But it was really in sort of language along those lines that I had made some adjustments to make it work for Montgomery County, with the vast majority not being a municipality, but still with the interest in allowing municipalities to make decisions on the roads that they control.
Great, thank you. And then I had one other question about written testimony we received from the State Highway Administration. They put in testimony respectfully requesting some kind of amendment to address the language in the bill that seems to require SHA to be the agency responsible for placing signs on state highways within a county jurisdiction, to notify the public that they're entering an area that has stop sign cameras. They had requested either a change to require that the local jurisdiction cover the cost, and I guess maybe even be in charge of coordinating the actual implementation of those signs, or alternatively, that there be language in the bill that allows some portion of the revenue from the fines from the tickets to help offset their cost for signage. Did you have any thoughts or comments about that?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that. I apologize. I think either one is reasonable. I would leave it up to the committee. I think the only thing that we would want to, I think it's probably is actually better for the local government to put up the signs, because then you don't end up State Highway Administration is doing way better now than they used to, but there are times that we wait forever for them to fix relatively minor things, even when, when it's paid for. And so I think my guess would be a local jurisdiction would prefer to have the ability to move something along when they're ready to move it along. So that's probably, if they've given us language for that, I would support that. But again, if the committee feels strongly another direction, I'm okay with that too.
Great, thank you. I see Vice Chair Wu raising his hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we know how many red lights, this kind of stop sign camera we need to install? Is there any number we can guess?
So
How many will be impacted?
It's stop sign, right? It's not red lights, but
Yeah,
stop
stop sign. Yeah, how many stop signs there?
No, that's okay. So I think that the way the bill is written, the jurisdiction could make those determinations. So local jurisdiction. So that would be county on the county roads or local municipalities on the municipal road. But the bill itself doesn't restrict that.
Okay, they can maybe start with small scale and then maybe expand, depend how they want to implement that.
The local government who's making that determination, yeah, because it's essentially an enabling bill, so they can kind of expand or contract how they want to get started with it. Yes.
I see. Thank you.
And the fact that it's a 5-year pilot kind of places a sort of de facto consideration of limits, I guess, on local jurisdictions as well, right?
Sure. So if it is a total disaster and we do nothing, then 5 years from now, the authority to implement this goes away. However, if it's a fabulous success, which is what I expect, then we would have to act to expand it and or to expand it to continue it or make it permanent, or even personally, I actually hope that we find it successful and expand it to non-school zones eventually.
Great, thank you. I see our committee counsel has a hand raised as well. Oh.
Hi, yes. So I'll introduce myself because this is my first time here. I am Sam Fairbanks. I'm with the bill drafting office at DLS and am the committee counsel for this committee. I wanted to go quickly back to a couple of things that Delegate Charkoudian highlighted. First, the language is drafted that it should apply to whoever the local authority is per your intent. So I just wanted to confirm that
Thank you.
should be how it works. And then second, with the state highway signs, what you guys will need to consider, or amendment would need to consider, is that currently the State Highway Administration is required to place signs on monitoring systems that are in use on state highways because they're the ones who have the authority to put it in place. They are not required to place signs on highways within the local jurisdiction or the county that the local jurisdiction puts into place. And that's just as it's drafted. I'm not sure how, like, you guys can workshop how you want that to apply. But with the question, the State Highway Administration is not required to place a sign unless it's a monitoring system that they put in place on their jurisdiction within the county.
With that confirmation, I think we might have addressed SHA's concern that they submitted in their written testimony. So let's just, as long as we're absolutely sure about that, I think that addresses the concern, but we'll double check that. And if we need to consider an amendment, we can do so. But thank you for that, Ms. Fairbanks. Appreciate that. And appreciate you being part of our committee team this year. Any other questions about MC 425? Any discussion anybody wants to raise about the bill? No? Okay. Then I guess that ends our conversation there. I think once we get some follow-up clarity about this issue of whether there's a need for an amendment or not on the SHA signage, I'll just ask our committee members to be prepared, maybe even as soon as our next meeting, to vote on this bill. With that, I think we can
Yeah.
move on to the next agenda item, and we got you out of here before 12:15, Delegate Charkoudian. Thank you for being here. All right, our next and last agenda item is Montgomery County 10-25 speed monitoring systems for Maryland Route 200, also known as the Inter-County Connector, which is sponsored by our illustrious Senator Kramer, who is here with us. And Senator Kramer, as I mentioned earlier, we've already had the public hearing on this, so we're generally familiar with the testimony there. But if you want to offer short remarks to introduce our discussion, you are welcome to do that. And then we can have a conversation and ask some questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning, colleagues. On behalf of the Fighting 19th, Mr. Chair and colleagues, the bill that you represented is before you all. And it simply would allow the Maryland Transportation Authority the ability to place speed cameras on the Inter-County Connector, Maryland Route 200. You should have an amendment that struck provisions as to what the limitations may be, how it might be done, and with that amendment, it just puts everything in the hands of the authority, and they will take it from there. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that. Thank you for your work on this bill over the last few years now. And I note that this is the first year that SHA and MDTA have submitted written testimony in support of the bill. So everybody seems to be on the same page, and that's good news. And I do just want to reiterate for the record what the senator said about the newest version of this legislation, which was circulated to the committee members, I believe, this morning, and which you referenced, I think, back in our December public hearing, as well as removing that limitation on the number and type of cameras that the state agency would be authorized to put on the road in the Montgomery County section of the ICC, on the theory that the agency can manage the operational decisions about how many cameras and what type, whether they're mobile or permanent cameras. So we're moving forward, focused on that newest version of the bill, just to make it clear for the record. I did also want to point out there is uncodified language at the end of the bill. Senator Kramer and I have discussed this before, but one of the issues with the fiscal note was that the MDTA had concerns about standing up their own separate system to install and monitor cameras and issue fines through cameras because the startup costs for that kind of system can be significant. This uncodified language directs SHA to work with them, and they can basically piggyback off of SHA's existing speed camera system in order to address that issue. So that should really help resolve any concerns about a large fiscal note for this bill. With that, are there any other questions for Senator Kramer? Seeing none, any comments for conversation or discussion about this bill?
Anybody want to wish me a Happy New Year?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Senator.
Well, a Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you very much.
My goodness, look how smoothly this committee is operating. That's great. Okay.
Excuse me, sorry.
No, that's fine. I see. Go
I
ahead.
need to correct one thing I said earlier. We will need to do a slight amendment to the language to authorize. Currently, the language says that the State Highway Administration authorizes people like the cameras in school zones. So we'll just have to allow them to authorize counties to post signs instead of the way that it's drafted. So there will be
That's for the last bill.
Yes, for the last bill. I apologize. I'm sorry to go backwards, but I wanted to catch you before you closed anything.
Sure.
So just so you guys do all know, that's what will come through as an amendment, a slight change to make sure that this local authorities. Thank you, and I apologize.
No worries. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate you doing that. Okay. Last call for any questions or comments about MC 1025. Seeing none, Senator, thank you for being here. And I guess that completes our agenda, and we can be adjourned unless there's no other business or questions that anyone has to raise. Ralph, any announcements for the committee?
No, I think we are all set. I'll just remind committee members that this Zoom link will be in use for all future meetings of this committee. So I will bump it every single time we have an agenda posted, but you can save this link. It won't change throughout session.
Great. And for the committee members, thank you for being here. Just a reminder, the committee will be meeting weekly, probably only through early to mid-February. So our loose goal is to try to deal with a couple of our bills per week. And by the first or second week in February, have our final votes with any amendments that we may consider so that we can move these bills to the full delegation in a prompt fashion. So thank you all. And with that, we are adjourned at 12:17.